Hope you are doing well. Today, horror incident about unseen entity or demon. This is the story shared by Mark. This incident happened with his father's friend. He worked in telecommunications in Chicago. He used to do field work which involved a lot of traveling. His village was also 50 miles away from Chicago. One day he went near his village for a job, and after that he thought that since his village was close by, he could visit his relatives. He went to his village, spent some time with his relatives, and at night he left for Chicago. When he was on his way to the city, he saw a middle-aged woman dressed in blue clothes walking in the middle of the road. He stopped the car and asked where she was going and if she needed help. She said that she had to go to the city but was unable to find a vehicle at that hour. So he offered her a ride as he was also going in the same direction. She sat on the back seat. As he started driving again, he tried to make small talk with her, but he noticed that she wasn't responding. He looked back at her and saw that she now looked like a 50-year-old woman. It seemed like she was aging with every passing moment. Suddenly, she put her foot in front of him on the seat, and it was not straight but was bent in the backward direction. Seeing that, he lost his senses out of fear and his car got hit. He fainted and remained unconscious for quite some time. When he woke up, he was still in his car. The woman was gone. He felt confused and scared. He checked his surroundings and found no sign of the woman. Gathering his courage, he took control of his car and somehow drove himself to the city. After this event, he stopped doing field work for his job. Weeks passed by, but the memory of that night haunted him. He couldn't understand what had happened. Was it a ghost? Was he hallucinating? The questions kept him awake at night. He started researching local legends and stories about his village and the surrounding areas. He discovered that there were many stories of supernatural encounters on that very road. People talked about seeing spirits and strange beings, especially late at night. He learned that the road he had taken that night was believed to be haunted by the spirit of a woman who had died in a tragic accident many years ago. According to the legend, she would appear to travelers, asking for a ride, and then scare them. Some said she was seeking revenge, while others believed she was just a lost soul trying to find her way. This discovery shook him even more. He began to connect the dots and realized that the woman he had encountered might have been this very spirit. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became. His fear turned into a deep unease that affected his daily life. He couldn't concentrate on his work, and his health started to decline. His friends and family noticed the change in him and tried to help. They suggested he see a doctor or a therapist, but he refused. He didn't think they would understand or believe his story. Instead, he became more and more isolated, spending most of his time indoors and avoiding any trips that required him to travel. One day, his best friend from work, John, paid him a visit. John was a practical man who didn't believe in ghosts or spirits. He listened to the story patiently and then suggested that they visit the village together. John believed that confronting his fears might help him get over them. Reluctantly, he agreed. They planned the trip for a weekend. As they drove to the village, the atmosphere in the car was tense. He was nervous, but having John by his side gave him some comfort. When they reached the village, they talked to the local people and heard more stories about the haunted road. Everyone had a different version, but the essence was the same: a woman in blue who appeared on the road at night. In the evening, they decided to drive down the same road where the incident had happened. It was dark and the road was deserted. They drove slowly, their eyes scanning the surroundings. Suddenly, they saw a figure in blue standing in the middle of the road. Both of them were startled, but John kept his composure. As they got closer, they realized it was just a scarecrow dressed in blue clothes. Someone had put it there as a prank or to scare travelers. They laughed nervously, but the tension in the air was still palpable. They continued driving, and after a few minutes, they saw another figure. This time, it was moving. John stopped the car and they both got out. The figure approached them slowly. As it came closer, they saw that it was an old woman. She looked harmless, but there was something eerie about her. She asked for a ride to the city. John, determined to face the situation head-on, agreed. She sat in the back seat, just like the woman from his previous encounter. As they drove, John tried to talk to her, but she didn't respond. He looked back and saw that she was aging rapidly, just like before. Suddenly, she put her foot in front, and it was bent backward. This time, John didn't panic. He kept driving, but he was visibly scared. The car started making strange noises, and the air inside became cold. The woman let out a loud, terrifying scream, and then she vanished. The car stopped abruptly, and they both sat there in silence, trying to process what had just happened. John, who had been a skeptic, was now a believer. They drove back to the city in silence, both lost in their thoughts. The experience had been overwhelming, but it also gave him some closure. He realized that what he had seen was real, and that he wasn't losing his mind. After that night, he felt a sense of relief. He started going out more, and slowly resumed his field work. The fear was still there, but it was manageable. He learned to live with the fact that there are things in this world that cannot be explained. Years passed, and he shared his story with many people. Some believed him, while others thought it was just a figment of his imagination. But for him, it was a life-changing experience. He never forgot the woman in blue, and the lesson he learned that sometimes the most terrifying things are those that we cannot understand. And so, he continued with his life, always carrying the memory of that night with him. It made him more cautious and more appreciative of the simple, explainable things in life. He never took the haunted road again, but he didn't need to. The memory was enough to remind him of the mysteries that lurk in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. It's my advice, if you ever visit, remember to be careful around the river and the forest. For the spirits that are hungry for fear, always inquire about the house before move in. Keep yourself and others safe from any type of scary activity. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.